I was concerned about getting exposed. There was this moment where I thought I was going to get exposed for who I was. You see, at the workplace environment, I was involved with a coworker. There was a person there that I'd grown close to, and then we started having an affair. And all of this started to showcase to other people, and they were like, wait a second, I think something's going on there. And there was all this chit-chat, right? And inside of all this chit-chat, I didn't change my behavior. I'd modify a couple things. I'd look a little different. I'd try to hide stuff because I was worried about how it might look. You're like, well, if you're worried about how it might look, then don't even do it. Narcissists don't think that far ahead. Like, I was just thinking in the moment, I just wanted that person. So, like, that's all I got. And so then I had to modify really quickly. I had to change what I was doing. I had to try to hide it, all these things, because I was worried about how I might come across, how people might see me. So inside of this, I'd had to have conversations with different people around the situation to be able to help just them understand that there wasn't that big of a deal. Like, nothing was actually going on. It was just a friend that was in need. It was just someone I was trying to help encourage. It was just this moment. All of this trying to be able to prop up an image that was getting tainted by my own actions. Like, I was more concerned about how I looked than I was about the actual actions I was doing. I didn't care about the actions I was doing. I liked the actions. I wanted to do the things that I was doing. But I had to make sure that they looked okay and they looked acceptable in society, in the co-working environment. So I had to make sure I looked and appeared a certain way. Now, inside the marriage, there's also this piece of wanting to be in control of the things that I can be in control of. So one of those pieces was controlling my wife with the aspect of finances and with money. Of her not feeling comfortable to go spend money on common basic things because she didn't know how I was going to respond. Now, I didn't tell her no. That's the difference. Like, I didn't tell her, no, you can't do this, and I didn't take her money away. Instead, I would be like, yeah, go get it. Or there's a piece of me that wanted to be supportive just to get her what she wanted so that I would feel like she was off my back and that she wasn't paying attention to me. But then I would see the bills come in. I would see the frustration that half the time they were just from me anyways. And it would put me under a piece of stress and pressure. And then I would just rage out. We're spending too much money, all this kind of stuff. Then she kind of cowers and pulls back because she's like, oh, well, I'm sorry I even spent money. And then produces this cycle, this argument, all this type of stuff. Because I was more concerned about, in the moment, protecting what was mine, protecting what I wanted, protecting what I thought I wanted in that moment versus actually investing in my wife. You need to understand, when we talk through pieces of narcissistic abuse and we talk through you going through the next stage of this, whether this is breaking up, whether this is the divorce process, whether there's custody battle, there's really only two things that the narcissist actually cares about. Like, actually will move mountains to actually appear better, to be able to work on different pieces. Like, two things the narcissist is like, hey, these are the two things that I need to have in my life or need to look a certain way in my life, or else. The hard thing is when you're inside of this relationship and you start to pull apart and you start to break apart, there's typically only two things you even have to be able to leverage. Sometimes you might be able to leverage them, sometimes you might not. These are the two that we typically see. The first one is image. Now, a narcissist, you can use image to oftentimes leverage what you actually want in the moment. Does this mean you're kind of almost playing a little bit manipulator in the moment? Sometimes. If you're getting through the divorce process, it's like, hey, the end goal is that you get divorced. It's not that you got through it unscathed. It's that you just get divorced. However that needs to happen, let's make it happen. So you can actually be free and you can move forward in the healing process. And so inside of all of that, image is a big piece for narcissists, that they want to be able to make sure their image looks good to other people. That doesn't mean that they love themselves. It doesn't mean they care about themselves. What that means is I care about what other people think about me, how they actually see me, how they actually think about me, all these kind of things. And so narcissists are oftentimes driven by this to be able to avoid this piece of shame and guilt and things underneath inside that he doesn't want to feel. Instead, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to look like the perfect person, to look like the good guy, to look like the engaged dad? Let's do that. And so you need to understand a narcissist cares more about his image than he cares about anything else. More about his image than he does care about himself, even physically, emotionally. More about his image than what he cares about you, than what he cares about your kids, and what he cares about, like, even the workplace environment, like what some people think about him. He might still have his own image in his mindset. Well, I'm amazing, so it doesn't matter. They're just these peons that don't really matter. He could switch it in so many different ways. But a narcissist's image is one of the biggest pieces that the narcissist is trying to maintain, uphold, and convince the world that he's a great guy. So when you step into breaking up, when you step into the divorce piece, image is one of the pieces that you can use to leverage. Now, what that looks like, sometimes it can be tricky because it's not like you can go to this person and just be like, hey, by the way, I'm blackmailing you with your image. But there also is a piece of like, hey, if you don't stop slow rolling this divorce, I'm just going to go public about it and tell everybody about it because I'm tired of you dragging your heels on this when you say you hate me and you don't want this relationship, but you won't sign the papers. So what is this going to be? Like, do we need to actually start like publicizing stuff in the newspaper so that I can actually get you to do what's required? Because otherwise you're just continuing to abuse your family, and I'm going to start letting people know about that. Seems aggressive, right? All of this you have to take with a grain of salt because you have to understand your narcissist and some of his tendencies. None of this is to be able to put you in harm's way or be able to spiral up the abuse even more where it's abusive and aggressive to you. But you need to understand image oftentimes is one of the pieces that you can actually leverage to be free. And sometimes people don't leverage it. Sometimes people don't think of it that level because they're too like, I'm concerned about how it might make him feel. I'm concerned if he'll lose his job. I'm concerned about all of this. Those are the own consequences of his own actions. So you need to stop worrying about him because that's not going to help you heal. That's only going to keep you stuck over and over and over again. Now, the second piece that typically is going to come into play that narcissists actually care about inside the divorce and the breakup process is money. How much money they have, how much money they're going to spend, how much money they're going to lose on you. And what we mean by this is going through divorce oftentimes is a very expensive process. You'll have narcissists that will drag it out forever because they don't care about the money, they care about the image. And so they're going to make you pay and they're going to be vindictive as all get out to try to make sure that they get their way and you don't get anything. But then you're also going to have narcissists that don't want to go to court, will beg you not to go to court because of the fact that they know if they go to court, they're going to have to start paying child support. They're going to have to actually start showing up and actually contributing something to your life because they haven't been doing that in a long period of time. And so they'll try to keep you out of court. We'll just work on this together. Yeah, don't believe it. That's a lie. We'll just work on this through mediation. Don't believe it. That's a lie. And if you have to go to mediation in your state, try to make it as quick as possible. If you don't, skip it every single time. It doesn't work when we're talking about narcissistic abuse. You're going to go to court anyways. So stop wasting time with it and just move to the next level so you can get free. Inside of all this, the narcissist will be more concerned about money. How much are you going to take? How much can he take from you? Is this a profit opportunity for him, or is he just trying to cut his losses? Inside of all of this, we've had families that have actually been separated where you've been able to have, like the woman's been able to have primary custody of all the kids and be able to get free because of this money piece. And what I mean by that is sometimes the narcissist will settle for looking like a better dad and we're looking better in the fact that, hey, he's contributing money. And so he'll contribute money and then he'll be like, no contact. Sometimes you'll have a piece where you'll say, hey, I don't even want the money. Just sign the kids over to me. And we've seen people that have done that. He's like, oh, okay. Well, that keeps money in my bank and I don't have to actually worry about the kids. Like, this sounds like a win-win. The hard times is trying to make that feel like a sell for the narcissist. For him to think, oh, this is my idea. And him to think, oh, this is a good idea. Because the more you're able to see that and do that, the more he's going to action on that to actually let you do the things you need to do. But you can understand, going into the divorce process, going into this breakup piece, custody battle, the two things that you have to be able to leverage are typically going to be image and money. And so my goal is to be able to help educate people about narcissistic abuse and equip them of dealing with the triggers, the trauma, the pieces that are going to come into your life that are going to be hard to be able to process and work through. Because if I can help you work through this, you can show up in the courtroom being really factual, not emotional, just factual. These are the facts. These are all the times when he should have showed up and he said he didn't want to. These are all the times when he's disagreed about actually showing up according to the parenting plan. This is all the times that he's withheld money. This is all the times, whatever it might be. It's you showing up in such a factual way that people understand, hey, you actually know what you're talking about. And this isn't just you having a vindictive idea about him, but this is you standing up for you. Typically, the two biggest ways that you can leverage this is through image and money. If I can help any more with this, please go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough to move forward in the healing process with Raw Motivations today.